What's the pettiest thing a parent has complained about to their kid's school? For silly fun at the end of the term, I showed an episode of Mr. Bean. He was washing his clothes and pulled out a dress accidentally and put it on. That is what the parents were mad at, that I was encouraging cross-dressing. They were seniors in high school, by the way.
They were seniors in high school, and now they're an all-cross-dressing, traveling cabaret. And that's your doing, you wonderfully corrupt show business pixie.
In my college gender studies class, the first big paper could be skipped if you cross-dressed for a day. I only know one or two people who chose to actually write the paper. My brother is a high school teacher. He had one kid that was early accepted into college of his choice and decided that his entire senior year could be the frick you all year. My brother had multiple conversations with the parents throughout the year about the fact that the student was failing, as did other teachers. Parents seemed very unconcerned by this. The day before classes ended, my brother runs into the father out in public, and the father says to him, "I'm very concerned about the students, really. I think his school performance this year doesn't bode well for how he's going to do in college." My brother said, "Your son isn't going to college. He has to repeat at least 5 classes this year in order to get his diploma." "What? No, he's already accepted." "Yes, but that's all conditional. Without his high school diploma, which we've been telling you all year he's not going to get, he can't get in." The father, who has a college degree himself, was apparently shocked by this news, and then promptly went right to the school board trying to get his entire senior year waived because he was obviously such a strong student that a school accepted him on early admission. The school board did not agree. The counselors at my school have this big meeting for all the seniors after the typical early admissions date, where they tell horror stories of people getting rescinded. It works pretty well. Parents once complained that I let my 7th grade intermediate ESL students read a story that was a whole 22 pages long, with images for their book report. They had more than a month to read it. It was an edited copy for their level.
How could you, you monster? 22 pages is too much for any child.
Honestly, even as someone who speaks their second language on a daily basis, the idea of reading a 22-page book is kind of daunting to me, even if I could do it in, a day or so. But I am a dummy, and it's probably good for an official curriculum for these kids. I hate parents that prevent their kids from testing their limits. The first year living in the US, I had a social studies final assignment on the Civil War. It was a total of about 20 essays, each about a page long, double-spaced. Not extremely difficult for your average student, but it seemed impossible to me and other kids in my ESL class. I'd taken English classes before moving to the US, but I would compare it to an English speaker taking Spanish 1. You can say hi and ask for a bathroom, but you can't really have a conversation with anyone. I was the only kid from my ESL class that managed to turn in the entire assignment. Both my ESL and social studies teachers were impressed. I'm sure it was crap, but I felt so proud to have completed it. Most of the other kids in my class took advantage of the circumstances and turned in 2 or 3 pages max, since the teacher had said to turn in what we could because she understood we were in ESL. I witnessed a parent complaining at the end of a primary school concert that it wasn't fair that their child had no discernible musical talent and that the school should stop giving instrument lessons to kids who were keen or talented. I've never seen the music teacher genuinely speechless for so long.
My special snowflake can't play a triangle, so nobody gets to play a triangle.
She was angry that her child got lice in elementary school. Apparently, it was all my fault that her child got infected. After they got the lice out, the mum was adamant that her daughter not be hugged by anyone, or that she shouldn't get too close, but also never specified what too close actually was for me to attempt to enforce. All this so that she didn't get infected again. This is 1st grade. Trying to keep kids away from each other is like herding cats. This same parent complained to me that I was calling her child by a shortened version of her name, that the child asked me to use. These are just from this year. My kids all got lice in elementary school last year, and I still didn't blame anyone. I just muttered while combing out their hair for like the billionth time. I hate lice. I have my students wash their hands before lunch. Apparently, I'm being unrealistic with my expectations. Get effed, Dawn. Back when I used to teach, I had a parent once complain that my classroom was too quiet, and as a consequence her daughter and her peers got too much work done, and they felt it was bad for their daughter's brain to be learning so much so quickly. Even worse, I had to sit in a meeting between them and my head of faculty to discuss it. Multiple times, my head of faculty had to clarify that they were actually complaining that their daughter was being taught too well. I bet it just made the parents insecure that their kid might be smarter than them. A parent called to complain that I hadn't put her daughter's late homework into the gradebook yet. I told her, I can't put the homework in the gradebook until she actually turns it in. This parent just kept asking me why I hadn't put it in. I kept replying with, I have nothing to put in, she hasn't given it to me. Finally, the call ended with, ugh, some people just don't know how to do their jobs. For everyone saying I should just put in a 0, I would have if I'd been allowed to. The school didn't allow teachers to put zeros in for assignments until the end of semester. So instead, I called parents every time there was an incomplete assignment and reminded them that it would become a 0 in a few weeks. Occasionally, I would put in a 0 for a few days to scare a kid into getting an assignment done, but only if I knew that it would work. My cousin, who teaches kindergarten, had a parent complain to the principal that she was irresponsible for being selfish enough to have a baby and take maternity leave before the end of the school year. Most of my colleagues who are mothers have heard a version of this. Last year, a parent complained that I was missing school too much, and it was negatively affecting her child's learning. My mom spent a month in the hospital and died. I missed 8 days. I had a girl in an honors class. She earned a B+. The mother asked if she could be bumped up. Cases where it's pretty darn close to an A, I'll consider it, but she was at the low end of a B+. During the semester, she changed classes and is now in the same class with a different teacher. She didn't ask to be transferred, but that's just how her schedule happened to work out. I got an email 2 months later from the parent telling me how much better the review packets are that the other teacher gives, and how the other teacher spreads apart the test dates to be more comfortable for the students, and that the student was doing much better in the other class. She asked again if I could change the grade to an A. Those would be valid criticisms if it were not for the fact that I gave the exact same reviews as the other teacher and we scheduled tests on the exact same day. On top of that, I asked what the student currently had in that class. Oh, B+.
Oh my god, she tried negging you. I wonder if she thought because she herself was vain enough for it to work on her that it would work on you.
Gosh darn, focus all your vitriol on your kids if you want them to pass, parents. Or maybe it's a good thing that all this toxic stupidity isn't directed at their offspring 24/7. My mother's a high school teacher, and this is one of her stories. The kid turns 18 and joins the military. The mother goes ballistic, storms into the school, yelling at everyone, well, just the staff, saying that this was all the school's fault, that he was corrupted into joining and things like that. Demands to talk to the kid's teacher, my mum, and my mum says, "This seems like a talk you should be having with your kid, not me." The lady goes ballistic again. Mum has to call the AP to escort her out of the building. After hearing that, no wonder the kid wanted to join right after high school. One of my students was the child of a co-worker. Both were huge pains in the butt. Co-worker's mother stormed into the class after school to complain that her son had earned a C+ or a B-, I can't remember, on a homework assignment the week before. She was upset that I hadn't contacted her. I explained that I always immediately entered grades into a system that parents had access to online. Parents could view grades and that school calendar, etc. The school employee who maintained the site? It was her. So she knew how to use it. The co-worker's mother demanded that I contact her personally whenever her son made less than an A, and got upset when I said that I wouldn't. I told her I didn't have the time, I had the work of 2 teachers. An email wouldn't take long for me to send, but I didn't want to give myself yet another thing to remember, then risk getting chewed out for forgetting, and risk all of the other parents wanting the same useless courtesy. I said I'd contact her if I noticed a trend of slipping grades, which wasn't the issue with her son. His grades were great overall. This teed her off no end. I said that accessing the site took the same number of clicks it'd take to access an email about the grades, so there was no point. She cried, yelled, and kept pushing and threatened to take this to the principal, who was her best friend. I finally said that if I could keep track of all the grades for the 3 grade levels I taught, surely she could handle keeping track of grades for one kid. Just one incident of many with my beady-eyed witch of a co-worker. This reminds me of a parent I had to deal with just recently. Her son is a good kid, but not a good student. His grades are terrible. His mother emailed me saying that he isn't responsible and asked me to email her the agenda and homework personally every day. Luckily, I have a class website, which they were told about, and upload the agenda, homework, and handouts daily, and just referred her to the site. I still can't understand how she thought that was a reasonable request. I guess that's easier than having a conversation with her kid and helping him become responsible. The bottom of a T. She wanted me to force her daughter to write the letter T as it appears in typing. She scheduled a parent-teacher meeting about it.
Did you follow her instructions to a T?
No, I told my boss that I'm not a calligraphy teacher and I didn't attend the meeting. The situation seems to have resolved itself. The color of red pen I use. Apparently, it's too dark of a red to be considered red, and if I can't do my job properly using the correct red, I'm unqualified to teach. A dark red pen? I can't believe that people like you are allowed around our children. What if the children see it and confuse it for blood and grow up to become vampires?
Ted Bundy only killed people because he couldn't get over the fact that his grade 4 teacher used too dark of a red pen.
You can submit your own stories to be featured here on the channel. The story submission link is in the description below. And if you want to listen to some vibey music in the background, check out easymode, also linked below, and subscribe. A parent complained to a teacher when their child fell on the playground and the clothes got muddy and scratched up. They wanted the school to pay for new clothing. They fell on the pavement which had mud on it since it had rained the day before. The child also didn't hurt themselves, they just got the clothing dirty and scratched a bit when he fell. I had a screaming parent in my office because of a marginal comment I made on an essay that had received a grade of 95%, submitted by a student who was top of the class. The comment said, and I'm paraphrasing here, "This argument is unworthy of you. Don't be lazy. Find better sources and don't hang your argument on idle assertions." The parent claimed I had called her daughter lazy, idle, fat, mentally ill, and unworthy of being a student at my institution. She actually thought I was threatening to have her expelled or at least barred from grad school. The best part? The girl was a second-year undergraduate. The next best part? It was an open office and my colleagues were openly mocking her the entire time. I just sat there and said nothing. I miss those guys. Just to be clear, because of potential pronoun confusion, the female student had no problem with the comment and was absolutely mortified by what her mother had done and seriously concerned that the interference would damage her academic career. I just laughed and told her I was even more impressed that she'd emerged intelligent and sane from a home environment like that, then asked if she needed any letters of reference. She did, and she got them. Her mother got a vaguely insulting note and a small tray of milk chocolates. It seems infinitely more fun to be a professor or doctor purely in that you have a lot more leeway to be sassy to overbearing would-be authority figures, especially once you have tenure. I did a class Secret Santa with my choir. Before they were allowed to draw names, they had to bring back a signed form from the parents promising that they'll actually buy the other child a gift. This is 8th grade. One girl didn't buy a gift. I called the parents twice. Both times, a mother told me in a worried voice that didn't inspire confidence that yes, of course she'd get a gift. She never did, so one kid in class who signed up never got a gift. Her mother went absolutely ballistic. Called me, called my principal, insisted we had to make this parent go get her child a gift. I'd already planned to go out and buy her child a gift with my own meager salary, but she told me I wasn't allowed to do so because I had to make this other parent do it. I told her I can't drive to this other parent's house, drag her to the mall, and force her to buy a gift. I simply can't. It's out of my hands. My admin backed me up. She continued to rail at me for another week. I stopped doing Secret Santa after that. My mum was accused of doing witchcraft in the classroom when she told her kids a chant to make a snow day. The chant can only be done if the snow is in the forecast and the students get all of their homework done. The chant is, "Salami, salami, Bologna, let it snow." She just wanted her kids to do their homework. I had a parent complain that her kid was wearing a tight spaghetti strap tank top because the kid got hot and took off her sweater. The mum yelled at me for what she dressed her kid in. Because the conversation went like this. Daughter gets in the car with the parent not wearing the sweater. "You wore that to school? Oh my god, mom, chillax. The teacher said it was fine. You're overreacting." A parent went to the school district over the fact that I wouldn't let her come into my class because she wanted to give her daughter a bracelet that would have completed her outfit. This was back when I taught the 3rd grade. A music student of mine refused to sing one of her lessons in class because she had difficulty reading her bass clef. Her parents came to complain that it's not fair that I'm singling their daughter out because how is she supposed to know this clef? Well, this is her final year in solfege, so... Not replacing the novel, the entire 9th grade was assigned with a novel more aligned with her Mormon values. What was the novel in the syllabus and what was her demand? I need closure on this lunacy. The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian. It has a bit of racy romantic content, which was her main issue. I was teaching 7th and 8th grade at a Catholic school and a group of mums came in and complained that their sons were distracted by my butt and that I needed to do something about it. For the record, my teaching wardrobe is variations of conservative dresses straight out of the 1950s. Most awkward meeting ever. What do you even say to something like that? Yes, I shall deflate my butt in consideration? I basically said that, actually. I refused to push the review test and subsequent lessons after the test back because her parents wanted to take her out of school for a week to go on vacation. This was about 2 weeks after the winter break, mind you. I only have so much time to teach the entirety of World War I. They couldn't wrap their head around it and kept saying that I was trying to make it so their kid failed. My wife teaches at a school that uses Class Dojo. It does a lot of different things, but it is essentially a behavioral management system. She can give kids points for doing the right thing and can take points away if they do the wrong thing. The parents who sign up for notifications get them sent straight to their phone or computer. She had one student this year who was refusing to do work and was being disrespectful to the student teacher. She was basically telling the student teacher that she wasn't really a teacher and that she, the student, didn't have to listen to her, the student teacher. My wife overheard what was going on and took away a point for disrespect. The girl's parents came in the next day and the dad was demanding that my wife change the disrespectful point. He didn't mind that his daughter lost a point, but he was teed off that she lost a point for being disrespectful. He told her that a 7-year-old isn't capable of disrespect and insisted that this was going to ruin her chances of getting into Stanford because they would see her as a disrespectful person. My wife explained that this information is simply a way to track behavior and communicate with the parents. It has nothing to do with a permanent record, it's just an app. The dad continued to demand that it be changed and my wife eventually relented. She changed it to a refusal to work point instead. I'm not sure if Stanford thinks being lazy is better than being disrespectful, but the dad seemed to think so. My mother forced me to go to my 6th grade social studies teacher and ask her why I'd missed half a point on a 16-point assignment. That's 97%. I assume your mother's logic went something like this: failed life must achieve through children. I had a parent try to excuse her son's lack of homework completion as too hard for little boys. It was identifying nouns in a Year 9 class. At my old school, a parent complained to the principal that her child's punishment was too severe because when he exposed himself in class, it was just the berries and not the twig. That I gave their child a detention for saying something foul in Spanish. I guess they just didn't like this gringo calling their child out for the stuff they were saying. Admins caved to the parents and I was less than amused. Not a teacher, but I recall that my daughter's 2nd grade teacher got in trouble with another parent during the Iraq War by referring to Saddam Hussein in class as Saddam Insane. That parent was anti-Bush and anti-war and assumed that the teacher was some kind of right-wing Republican. I'm not sure of the teacher's politics, but he was an African-American gay man. The controversy blew over pretty quickly. This was in San Francisco, so yeah. Not a parent, but a college student. She told me she deserves to get rounded up to an A. Now, she had a lot of absences, never participated in class discussions, and didn't improve at all over the course of the semester. Oh, and she also had an 84, 5 points away from rounding range. When she wasn't rounded up, she sent an email saying that she didn't care about the class. She cares about getting into medical school, a dream that I've now ruined. She signed the email, "Your grace will be rewarded. Karma." When I was in middle school, I got something like 8 or 9 hours of detention for some stupid thing I did. My mum kept telling the teacher that it was not enough and that he should increase my detention time for 1 whole month, that I know of. I still pity my teacher. I dread awards day as an elementary school teacher. I had a parent complain that their child didn't get an academic award. I made sure that every child got something, whether it be for an academic subject like reading, writing, math, social studies, or science, or just for their awesome personality. I can't remember what her child got, but it was one of those personality awards. He was a very cheerful, sweet kid, but she said that this award sent the message that academics weren't important or that he wasn't smart. With over 120 kids in that grade level, it was impossible to give everyone an academic award. He had a chance to win one. If he read a certain amount of books, you'd win a reading award. But you actually had to keep track of that at home and turn the paper back into me, which he didn't. So I'll just say that this wasn't the first time she'd complained about something petty that year. I once had a parent accuse me and the admins of a conspiracy against her daughter. I had her in my class period and she always skipped, so I always marked her absent. She couldn't believe that her precious snowflake could be skipping. A parent from a rival school once complained to my teacher that I was too big to be playing 6th grade basketball. Must have been held back a few years, were her exact words. Joke's on her though, the teacher was my mum and promptly informed her that I was the youngest kid in my class by several months. I just had a tall father and a very early series of growth spurts. I got chewed out for expecting a 12-year-old to be able to read an analog clock. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories, or if you want some vibey music to put on in the background, check out easymode. If you like Am I the Genius, give Am I the Jerk a shot. Everything linked in the description.